If you are watching this video, one of two things is true. Either your wife sent it to you, in which case, thank you for clicking play, that already puts you ahead of most. Or you found it yourself, which means something in you is already asking whether you could be doing better by the woman you married. Either way, welcome. And I promise this is not going to be what you think it is. This is not a lecture. This is not a list of things you're doing wrong. This is not a video produced by someone who thinks men are the problem and women are perfect. Marriage is complicated, people are complicated, and nobody in this conversation is pretending otherwise. This video is a respectful conversation about something that most of the content directed at married men completely skips over. We spend an enormous amount of time and energy teaching women how to be good wives. How to support their husbands. How to keep a home. How to raise children. How to manage a household. How to be a good partner. Women receive this instruction from their mothers, from their culture, from their religion, from everywhere. Men receive almost none of the equivalent. Nobody sat most men down and said, here is how you treat a wife so that she actually thrives. Here is what she needs from you that she may never ask for directly. Here is how your behavior, including behavior you may not even be aware of, is either building her up or quietly breaking her down. And so some men, not all men, not even most men, but some men, end up in marriages where their wives are enduring rather than flourishing. Coping rather than growing. Shrinking rather than expanding. Not because those men are wicked. But because nobody ever told them what thriving actually requires from the person standing closest to her. Today I am going to tell you 5 specific, practical, honest things you can do, or stop doing, that will make a profound difference to whether your wife blooms inside your marriage or quietly wilts inside it. These 5 points matter for every wife. But they matter most urgently for the wife who is in a career transition. Or who left her job to raise your children. Or who is trying to rebuild her professional identity while managing your home and your family simultaneously. That woman is carrying more than you probably know. And she needs more from you than she is probably asking for. Let us talk about what that looks like. 5 ways to treat your wife so she can thrive. Point 1. See all her contribution, and say so out loud. Here is a question I want you to sit with for a moment. When did you last specifically, verbally, acknowledge something your wife did and tell her it mattered? Not a general, thanks, as you walked past. Not an assumed gratitude that you carry internally but never express. A specific, genuine, out-loud acknowledgement of something she contributed to your life, your home, your children, or your family. If you are struggling to remember, this point is for you. Here is what most men do not fully reckon with. When a woman manages a home, she is not doing a collection of small, incidental tasks. She is running an operation. She is the logistics director. The catering manager. The finance controller of the household budget. The child care provider. The appointment scheduler. The emotional temperature regulator of the entire family. The person who remembers that your child needs new school shoes and the insurance is due for renewal. She is doing all of this. Often without a salary. Often without recognition. And often while managing her own internal struggle about her professional identity, her financial dependence, and her sense of self-worth. And in too many homes, she does all of this to the sound of silence. Not silence because her husband dislikes her. Silence because her husband has never been taught that contribution requires acknowledgement, and that genuine, specific, regular acknowledgement is one of the most powerful things a man can give his wife. Here is what the research on relationships actually tells us. According to Dr. John Gottman, the single strongest predictor of relationship quality is not the absence of conflict. It is the ratio of positive to negative interactions, with bids for connection being met with acknowledgement rather than dismissal. This means that a wife who performs significant labor and receives no acknowledgement for it does not feel neutral. She feels invisible. And a woman who feels invisible in her own home does not thrive. She quietly disappears. The action for this point is simple. Once a day, say something specific. Not, "You do a lot." Specific. "I noticed you handled the school situation this week and I could see how much energy that took. Thank you. The way you managed the budget this month when things were tight, I see that. The children are doing well and that is because of you." Specific. Genuine. Out loud. It costs nothing. It changes everything. And it is the foundation on which all 4 of the other points rest. Because a woman who feels seen by her husband has a completely different experience of her marriage than a woman who does not. Point 2. Her financial dignity is not optional, it is your responsibility. This is the point that most men either do not think about at all, or think about and dismiss. I am asking you not to dismiss it. Because of all 5 points, this one has the most direct and the most damaging impact on a woman's sense of self, her mental health, and the long-term health of your marriage. If your wife is not currently earning her own income, whether because she is raising your children, or because she is in a career transition, or because the 2 of you made a joint decision that one income would cover the household, then your wife currently has no money of her own. She is dependent on you for every single thing she spends money on. Think about what that actually means for a moment. Every time she needs something personal, her hair done, a piece of clothing, a gift for a friend, a medical appointment, a cup of coffee with someone she needs to see, she has to either ask you for it, take it from the household budget hoping you do not notice or mind, or go without. She is an adult woman. A capable, intelligent, educated woman in many cases. Yet, she cannot spend a little money without navigating your awareness of it. Can I ask you something? How would you feel if every financial transaction you made required the knowledge, the approval, or the goodwill of another person? If you could not buy lunch without that person being aware of it? If buying something for yourself felt like an act that required justification? You would feel small. You would feel monitored. You would feel like a child rather than an adult. That is precisely how a financially dependent wife feels, even in households where the husband is genuinely generous. Because it is not about the amount. It is about autonomy. The dignity of being an adult who can meet her own basic needs without asking permission. The action for this point is this. Give your wife a personal allowance. Not household money. Not the grocery budget. A fixed, regular, unconditional amount of money that is hers, with no requirement to account for how she spends it, no commentary on her choices, and no expectation of gratitude for every purchase. If you cannot currently afford a large amount, start with whatever you can. The amount is secondary. The principle is primary. And while we are here, let me say something that some of you will resist and all of you need to hear. The money your wife does not earn because she is raising your children is money she is foregoing on your behalf. Her career pause is a financial sacrifice she is making for your family. Ly. The least you can do is ensure that sacrifice does not also cost her basic dignity as a financially autonomous adult. Point 3. Her ambition is not a threat to you, it is an asset for both of you. Many women were professionals before they became mothers and wives. Women who had careers, identities, networks, and ambitions. Women who loved their work and were good at it. Women who, for legitimate reasons, stepped back from that work for a season. And who are now carrying the very real and very painful experience of feeling like that professional self has been lost. And in some of those homes, there is a husband who, consciously or unconsciously, is not helping. He does not actively discourage her from working. He is not that man, or at least he does not think he is. But when she talks about her ambitions, there is a subtle lack of enthusiasm. When she has an opportunity, there is a convenient obstacle. When she succeeds at something small, there is FAI. And when she needs his practical support, his participation in childcare, his flexibility with his own schedule, his recognition that her professional rebuilding is a shared family priority and not just her personal hobby. It does not quite materialize. And she notices. She always notices. Here is what I want you to understand about your wife's professional ambition. It is not a threat to your masculinity. It is not evidence that she does not value the home you have built. It is not a signal that she is trying to escape from you or from your family. It is a fundamental part of who she is. And when that part of her is suppressed, when she has no outlet for her intelligence, her skills, her drive, and her desire to contribute to the world beyond the domestic, she does not become more content. She becomes less. Less herself. Less vibrant. Less present. And eventually, less committed to a marriage that is asking her to be permanently less. A wife who is growing is a wife who is engaged. A wife who is engaged is a wife who is investing in your marriage. A wife who is investing in your marriage is the greatest asset you have. The action for this point is threefold. First, ask her what she wants to build or rebuild professionally, and listen to the answer without immediately identifying the problems with it. Just listen. Second, make a practical commitment. What can you do differently to create the space she needs? Can you take the children on Saturday mornings so she has 4 hours of uninterrupted time? Can you be home by a certain time on certain days? Can you make one phone call, use one connection, open one door that you have been leaving closed? What is the concrete thing you can contribute to her professional becoming? Third, celebrate her wins out loud. When she lands a client, when she finishes a course, when she gets an opportunity. When she completes something she was working on. Celebrate it with the same energy you would want her to celebrate yours. Her wins are not in competition with your wins. In a real marriage, they are the same win. Point 4. Respect is not the absence of insult, it is the presence of regard. Most men who disrespect their wives do not know they are doing it. This is not an excuse. It is an important distinction, because the men who know they are disrespecting their wives and do not care are a different conversation. This point is for the men who genuinely believe they treat their wives with respect and who would be genuinely surprised to discover that their wives do not feel respected at all. Here is what respect looks like in practice, and here is where the gap between intention and experience most commonly lives. Respect is consulting her on decisions that affect her life, not informing her after you have already decided. Respect is not dismissing her opinion in front of others, not finishing her sentences, not talking over her, not rolling your eyes at her contributions in social settings. Respect is not making jokes at her expense to your friends, even gentle ones, even ones she laughs along with because the alternative is making a scene. Respect is not introducing her primarily as someone's wife or someone's mother when she is in a professional setting, as though her own name and her own identity are insufficient introduction. Respect is not treating her domestic contribution as something any woman could do, as though the specific, skilled, devoted labor she brings to your home is interchangeable and therefore unremarkable. Respect is not using her financial dependence as leverage in arguments, not reminding her, subtly or directly, that she is in no position to make demands because she is not earning. Respect is not requiring her to perform gratitude for things that are simply your basic responsibilities as her partner. And perhaps most importantly for the woman in career transition, respect is not undermining her professional confidence with casual, throwaway comments about whether her business idea will work, whether anyone will pay for what she offers, whether she is being realistic, or whether she would not be better off just focusing on the home. Those comments, delivered casually and forgotten by you within minutes, land in her and stay there. They become part of the internal voice that tells her she is not capable, not credible, not worth betting on. And that internal voice is the single biggest obstacle standing between her and the professional life she is trying to rebuild. You can be the person who makes that voice louder. Or you can be the person who drowns it out. The action for this point is an honest audit. In the last month, have you made any decision that significantly affected your wife without genuinely consulting her? Have you dismissed, minimized, or made light of something she said in front of other people? Have you made a comment, even a joking one, about her professional ambitions or her abilities that was not entirely, wholeheartedly encouraging? If the answer to any of these is yes, the correction does not require a grand gesture. It requires a conversation. A private, genuine acknowledgement that you see where your behavior landed and a specific commitment to what you are going to do differently. That conversation, had genuinely and without defensiveness, is one of the most powerful acts of respect available to you. Point 5. Be her safe place, not another thing she has to manage. This is the point that ties all 4 of the others together, and it is the one that I think matters most deeply to the woman who is navigating a career transition, or a professional rebuild while managing a home and a family. There is a particular kind of exhaustion that belongs specifically to women in this situation, and it is not only the exhaustion of too many tasks. It is the exhaustion of never being able to put the weight down. She cannot put it down at home, because home is where the managing happens, the children, the logistics, the household, the emotional temperature of everyone around her. She cannot put it down in public, because in public she is performing capability and composure for the world. She cannot put it down in her own head, because in her own head she is managing the anxiety about her professional future. The questions about her own worth. The grief about the years that felt like loss. And the hope that is trying to push through all of that. And if she cannot put it down with you, if you are someone she also has to manage, whose mood she has to monitor, whose ego she has to tend to, whose needs she has to anticipate and accommodate while her own go unaddressed, then she has no place of rest in her entire life. A woman with no place of rest does not bloom. She endures. And endurance is not a marriage. It is a sentence. Here is what being her safe place actually looks like. It means she can tell you she is struggling without you making it about your own feelings, or your own defensiveness. It means she can express fear about her professional future without you immediately trying to fix it, or dismiss it, or redirect it into something more comfortable for you. It means she can have a bad day. A bad week. A bad month. Without you withdrawing, becoming irritable. Or requiring her to manage your reaction to her difficulty on top of the difficulty itself. It means when she comes to you with something hard, your first response is not to explain, justify, or defend. It is to listen. Fully. Without your phone. Without half your attention on something else. Without the part of you that is already formulating your response before she has finished speaking. It means she knows, with certainty, that you are on her side. Not on the side of the version of her that is convenient and uncomplicated. On the side of the full, complicated, struggling, brilliant, becoming woman that she actually is. Here is the paradox that every man in a long marriage eventually discovers, either willingly or through loss. The wife who feels safe with her husband does not become more dependent on him. She becomes more herself. And the wife who is becoming more herself, who is growing, who is building, who is blooming, is the wife who brings more to her marriage, not less. You do not lose anything by being her safe place. You gain the full version of the woman you married. The action for this point is the simplest and the most demanding of all 5. Tonight, or this week, find a moment when things are quiet, and ask her one question. Ask her, genuinely, without an agenda, how she is really doing. Not how the children are doing. Not how the house is doing. How she is doing. And then listen to the answer, whatever it is, without fixing. Without defending. Without redirecting. Just be present. Just let her be fully seen by you. That is the beginning of letting her bloom. If this video gave you something to think about, share it with one person who needs to hear it. Not to point a finger. but because you care about the marriages around you. And if your wife sent you this video, go and find her right now and tell her you watched it. All of it. That is enough to start. Thank you for listening. Subscribe for more.